An exciting time of year with college basketball season officially starting for us on Monday. We've had 4 days of practice. Been very, very, very productive. I'm excited, even more so now than before we started Monday. We've kind of taken the mantra or the phrase onward and upward to heart. Our guys are really focused and locked in right now. I think a lot of it started with the spring training camp, the summer training camp, followed up by the fall training camp. So those 6 months, I think, have prepared us to have the opportunity to do some really special things. The spring, the summer, and the fall, I think you guys probably follow our social media accounts, whether it's Illinois basketball or Coach Fletcher's account. You've seen our guys' bodies change quite a bit, more so probably during a 6-month span than at any time I've been a coach, including as an assistant. Obviously, Fletch, Brady Welsh, who works with him, and our players deserve a lot of credit for that and the commitment that they've made in that area. We're significantly stronger physically. I think it's helped us mentally. It's given us confidence in that area, which I have seen carry over onto the court. So we're thrilled about what took place there over the 6 months. We identified from a basketball perspective 2 or 3 things for each guy and kept it really simple and really tried to attack those things in the offseason heading into the October 3rd practice start date. And to a man, those guys have really manned up and taken it very seriously and made a heck of a commitment to each other. And I think that's what's been really neat. And certainly in years past as an assistant coach and a head coach, we've had teams that work hard. We expect them to work hard. We've had players that work hard. We've had a handful of guys that each summer or off season have really made an extraordinary commitment to doing this thing at a really high level. But I don't think, certainly in my time as a head coach, that I've been around a team that collectively has done it the way that this team has done it. Not only in the weight room, as I mentioned earlier, but on the court as well. A lot of strides from a lot of those different guys. I'm sure you'll ask questions pertaining to different players. I want to leave that for Q&A. So we're really excited. Staff-wise, we've got James Herring, who has been bumped up, so to speak, or promoted from graduate assistant coach to director of basketball operations. Already doing a terrific job. He's been working with us for 2 years. I really appreciate James' work ethic. I appreciate the fact that he operates with integrity, that he cares about the players at a really high level. His commitment level's great. He was trained by Mark Morris, who we wish certainly nothing but the best with his new opportunity at Teamworks. But Mark trained him and did a great job, and James is ready and has already hit the ground running. It's great to have him on our staff. Just this week, an update, we added Drew Dunn as our graduate assistant coach. Drew is a former head manager for us and does a really good job. Obviously, we trust him a lot. He knows the culture. He knows our system. He knows how we want to play. He knows video and has done a great job there, hitting the ground running as well with his familiarity. I also want to point out what a great job our staff collectively has done. I always reference that, I'm very blessed. We have one of the greatest coaching staffs in the country. And without getting into too much specifics about recruiting, obviously per NCAA rules, I'm not allowed to do that. I think all of us are aware that some good things are happening there, and that is a total team effort. It takes a village to do what we've done to this point. Still have more work to do there, but we're certainly excited about that start. With the staff, one thing, normally we'd have them available to you at Ubben. We do have a recruit on campus today on an official visit. So support staff will not be present today at the over at Ubben due to the fact that they have recruiting responsibilities. In addition to that, D. Brown will not be present. He's dealing with some personal matters. Want to give him his privacy and space at this time out of respect for D. In terms of the players, I'll go through the ones that you're going to ask about health, or injury updates, and then I'll let you ask questions about how some of the other guys are doing specific to what they improved upon throughout the 6 months. But we'll start with Tracy. Tracy is full go. I get asked that question a lot. He's full go. I just saw him over at Irwin. He's over there finishing a paper. We had a really special day yesterday for a couple reasons. One, we had Manny Jackson was on campus, and anytime we get to have an opportunity for Manny to speak with our team, that's really, really special. And it happened to be in conjunction with the day where we were able to hand out Tracy Abrams' first master's degree diploma. So that was a big day yesterday. Everybody in the room stood up and gave him a round of applause. He and Mike Thorne, both will complete college with an undergraduate bachelor's degree as well as 2 masters. That's pretty extraordinary. I've never seen that happen before. Tracy with all 3 degrees from the University of Illinois, and Mike Thorne with 2 master's degrees from the University of Illinois. So we're awful proud of Tracy and Mike in that regard, which gets us to Mike. Mike is healthy. Knee feels great. He's doing really well. His conditioning is probably, if he would tell you he has a goal, he keeps telling me he wants to be one of the best conditioned big men in the country. He's not quite there yet, but he's getting closer. He is healthy. He's full go. He practiced full go over the course of the last 4 days, and his body's responded well. Talked to him today on the day off, and he's anxious and ready to go for the next 4-day cycle. LaRon Black, very similar injury with the knee, full go. Has led our team in rebounding in 3 of the 4 practices. We all know he has a gift there, plays with extraordinary motor, knees feeling great. Again, full go. Tijon Lucas, full go. And have been really impressed with him. He's the only true freshman. Obviously, Kipper's a freshman as well, but was here, as we all know, for the spring semester. So he has a little bit of a jump start, on T. But Tijon missed the entire summer training camp and really the entire fall training camp with the exception of some skill work, weightlifting, some conditioning, some non-contact things. Towards the last week of the fall training camp, we hit him with some pads just for some contact. But he really didn't have full-go contact until Monday, October 3rd. And he certainly, I think the staff would tell you, exceeded our expectations in terms of where he should be at, not only conditioning but strength and how he's played over the 4 days. He's a tough kid. Kind of knew that when we recruited him and we brought him in, but he certainly exhibited that over the last 4 days and really had a no-excuses mindset and mentality and has just been, like I said, exceeded expectations. We're excited to have him full go. Cardio-wise, is he where he's supposed to be at right now? No, but we're not playing today. Our first regular season game's November 11th, so we're going to work to continue to get him into shape. Jalen Coleman-Lands is the next guy. J. Cole is recovering well from the hand injury, very well. In fact, had a follow-up appointment today, and we expect him to maybe even have the chance to do some things next week, which is a little earlier than what we thought. That went very well, the appointment this morning regarding the hand. There will be some limitations here this upcoming week in terms of what he wears on the hand and how much contact, but certainly great to hear today from Schmitty, our trainer, that he's going to be able to do some things this next week, which, is a little bit earlier than we thought, which obviously our hope then, the prognosis is that we ultimately get him back full go a lot earlier than what we thought. An update on Malcolm Hill. Malcolm did not practice the first 4 days of the cycle due to an infected blister on his foot that we needed to drain. The good news is the culture showed that it was not infected. We did drain it. It was causing some irritation. Obviously, we're early in the season. His follow-up appointment was today, and he's expected to start resuming basketball activity on Monday after this weekend. So we thought it might not be till the tail end of next week that might not occur. So we got good news there as well. And I think that kind of covers most of the guys anyway that you might be curious about in terms of their status. So, again, thanks for being here on it's a special day for us. It always kind of represents the opening of the season, even though we started on Monday. I know the guys will be excited to get together with you once we finish here. We'll do that around 2:45. When I conclude, Coach Ballant will come up to finish, and then we'll meet you over at Ubben starting at about 2:45. Questions?
Whenever we talk about this team, it feels like we always got to say if healthy.
Yeah.
If healthy, what do you think you have?
I think we've got a chance to do something special. You know, I get asked that a lot, Jeremy, about expectations, and we have high expectations. We have high standards. We're pursuing excellence here. And at the beginning of every year, I always remind myself that what we're trying to do is control what we can control, and the team that we have, we want them to overachieve. Period. We want to put them in position to be their best and then some. And I think this team has that mindset right now early. Does being older help? There's no question about that. You know, we're really old and experienced, and I've noticed that throughout the first 4 days of practice. But, you know, what that means ultimately in terms of outcomes at the end, I don't know. I've learned that through the years that, you know, you can't control some of those things. But right now, I love the approach we've had. We've had 4 great days of practices. We're obviously older, and I do think we've got a chance as a group to do something special.
Coach,
Lauren.
would you talk about this one position, the point guard position? How important is that position to the team? Is this going to be a shared position as you see it? How do you see it evolving immediately and down the road?
Yeah, that's a great question. Lauren asked about point guard play. How important is it? Obviously, it's critical. We know that. You know, we have right now in practice, you know, we've got obviously Tracy who's playing the point. We have Jalen Tate, Tijon. Malcolm can play it, as we all know. He played that at times last year. Clayton Jones is playing it in practice as well. So we have some options there, Lauren. It's too early to tell. You know, obviously the experience of Abrams and Tate has demonstrated itself throughout the first 4 days. You know, they have a little bit of a head start, so to speak, on, you know, 2 of them in particular, Tijon and Clayton. So, you know, that stood out. But I don't know if it's going to ultimately be by committee or, you know, what that's going to look like. Those guys are going to have to earn that, and they know that. You know, we keep telling them everything is earned. I do like the fact, though, that we have some options and some healthy guys there, certainly more so than we have the last 2 years. Yeah, I don't know if I've got a set number of points in my mind, Lauren, coming from the position. I would say that obviously they have to be, in a perfect world, you want them to be defended and be a threat to score and or shoot the basketball. I think we all know that. At the same time, we have a lot of weapons. You know, you've got Malcolm and J. Cole, who are double-figure scorers. We've got other guys that have emerged that are younger guys through playing last year and having a great offseason. And obviously from an interior perspective, it's as big as we've ever been, and we've got guys that have a gift to score in and around the basket. And certainly there's going to be an emphasis, I think, that you'll see that might be maybe a little bit different than the first 4 years due to our personnel, that we're making an effort to throw the ball inside, that's a real point of emphasis. We have some guys with some gifts there. So, you know, kind of like in football, you know, we want to quarterback our team. They need to lead. They need to run our team. They need to put our offense in position to have quality possessions. And then obviously we always tell them they're the front porch of our defense. They're the first guy 80% of the time that the opponent sees when they cross half court and attack our man defense. So it is a big position for us. And obviously the fact that, you know, the Lord's blessed us with some health at this juncture and we've got a little bit more depth there is a good thing for our team.
With all the depth that you have this year, what's the competition been like in practice? Because you're kind of too deep at every position. What has that been like so far?
We have been, we are at least too deep at every position. And because we have so many older guys, I think you've heard me say before that pretty much everyone on our team, unless you're a true 5 or just a true 1, is going to learn at least 2 positions. So we have a lot of versatility. We have a lot of depth. And practices have been very physical, very competitive the first 4 days. I love that. We've went a little bit shorter than normal this time of year. Part of it's guys know what they're doing. Part of it is everything we've been through. I want to make sure we're taking care of our bodies. And then part of it is we're getting a lot out of the time we're practicing because guys are going at each other. It reminds me a little bit from a depth perspective of the team that we had my 4th year and last year there at Ohio.
John, regarding Mike Thorne, I know you didn't have him for very long last year, but what you did have him for, he showed some signs of promise. Do you want to, build on that and have him, back for an entire season this year to see what he can do?
No question. I think he's focused in on that as well. He wants to be more consistent, and I think he would tell you, especially at the defensive end. I don't know, when he came in last year, he was weighing about what he weighs now. He weighs close to 290 pounds. He's between 285 and 290 when we weigh him, okay? But the difference was last year he was between 17 and 18% body fat. Right now he's under 10, which, I've been doing it a long time, and I've never coached a guy that's 6'11", 290, and under 10% body fat. I mean, he's a specimen, and now he's got to learn how to use that at both ends of the floor. I think for him, he would tell you conditioning, getting in optimal shape is important to him, and being a guy that consistently defends. We all know he has a gift to rebound, and he has a gift to score the ball in and around the basket, and I'm confident he'll bring those two things. I think it's conditioning, body, and some consistency on the defensive end when added to those two strengths, can really help our team and can help him flourish.
John, about Tracy, it's been a long time since he's played in the game. What are you watching for with him in terms of, getting through some things and as he progresses and gets closer to getting back on the floor?
Well, the first thing is, I nicknamed him a long time ago the Bulldog. So I've been wanting to see Tup that Bulldog mindset, physicality, vocal leader that he is, and that's exactly who he's been the first 4 days. I mean, he brings an energy level to the practice. He brings a competitiveness to the practice. He brings a no excuses approach. He's an extension of me. He understands what we want. He understands terminology. I watch him tutor or mentor, in particular the guys at his position, but other guys as well. I'm really, it's really a neat story because everyone's going to focus on how he's playing, and obviously that's important. It's important to him. It's important to us. But where he's come from when I first met him as a person until now, in terms of his understanding of the game, his understanding of selflessness, his understanding of the importance of teammates first, putting your team in position to win and be successful, checking your ego at the door. It's like having an old man out there, Tup, so from that standpoint, it's great to have him back. It's great to have his voice back in practice. You can hear him, and when he inspires the others to talk like that, then we had several coaches coming through during the summer, and he was working out full go towards the end, and a lot of the coaches, as coaches, we always are very critical. We think that we're not talking enough or we're not playing. But I had numerous coaches that came through to watch practice say, man, is your team loud. Boy, do those guys talk. And it's not just because of him, but certainly he spearheads that.
How do you handle that, like the psychology behind that as a coach? Do you, have you talked to other coaches maybe who've had a guy out that long? I don't know if you've experienced something like that.
Yeah, a little bit, Shannon. Honestly, he has different people that he meets with. One of them is me. We talk a lot. We meet weekly, as I do with a lot of the guys, pretty frequently. But with him, I try to meet weekly with him. His mind's in a good place right now. I mean, he's part of it, which is amazing, is that all of his strength numbers, his speed numbers, his vertical jump numbers are actually higher than before either injury occurred, which tells you how hard he's worked. And he's put in a lot of time. Our strength and conditioning coaches have put in a lot of time with him. So I think he gets a lot of confidence from that. And then each day that goes by, because he really started going full go towards the end of July, Shannon, you just see him getting more and more confident. Every time he dives on a loose ball, every time there's a collision and he falls down and gets back up, you can just see him start to get more and more confident and become himself. And that's been pretty neat.
You saw probably some of it last year, but just what's he been like as far as maybe being a mentor, being the old man, like you said? How's that?
Yeah, obviously he tried to do that last year from a bench seat. And I think, well, I know because he's told me, he learned a lot going through that. And I think he sees things a little bit, which is unique as a player, a little bit as a coach, a little bit, because he's sitting there with the same perspective and viewpoint. And I think that's made him more mature. I think it's made him a better leader. and ultimately a better player, but most importantly, a better person. I think he learned a lot going through that. In terms of mentoring, for sure, he's taken Tijon, under his wing. He helps his position group. He demands a lot of himself, which is why he's able to demand a lot of others. And he's doing that with not only the position group, but other guys on the team as well.
John, to have one 6-year player is pretty rare, and you've got two, even on an experienced veteran team. How has that maybe changed the dynamic just to have two guys like Tracy and Mike?
And Mike having 6th-year guys, yeah, they're, obviously they've both those guys have been through a lot. That's well documented. I think having them is just an extreme advantage because experience is such a great teacher if you allow it to be. And, I mentioned how much Tracy's matured. Bo's matured as well. I think from a coachability standpoint, he takes coaching better now. He's conditioned better, although we still got some work to do there, but he's better than when he first arrived. I think he has a desire to be a better defender along with his scoring and his rebounding, to be able to bring those things to the table for his team. I just think those guys I've always said freshmen want to play, sophomores, want to start, juniors want to score, and seniors want to win. I know that's not true all the time, but there is some stereotype or truth with that, certainly to a degree. Obviously, those guys are at the point now which is what's really great about having them as 6th-year guys, they just want to win. They want to play well. They want to get better. They understand that it's important not to have a bad practice, that we have to have deliberate practice, that we come to the gym to get better. And we strung 4 days together like that this first cycle, and certainly those guys are a big part of it with their leadership.
Coach, touching on those strength numbers, you saw a lot of the increases, some Men's Health magazine pictures of the guys. What maybe impressed you the most about that progress with Fletch over this offseason?
I don't even know where to start with that. I mean, I mentioned earlier mindset, physical strength, conditioning, body fat, nutritional habits. I could keep going. I mean, those guys right now, I think, understand that all those things affect performance, and that's pretty neat. So certainly we appreciate all of his efforts, and we realize what a difference that Fletch and his staff has made.
John, how do you challenge Malcolm with the summer, and do you need him to have a Big Ten MVP type season?
Well, I don't necessarily want. He's going to put pressure and expectations on himself because Malcolm has high standards. I mean, he's one of the hardest workers, Jim, I've ever coached in terms of the extra time that he puts in. In fact, there's times where I try not to get him to overtrain, and I try to lock the doors on him if I could. He loves the game. He works, and a little bit like Bo and Tracy with Scott's question. Malcolm's been through a lot. He's kind of seen it all. And he's at the point now, I think, where, he wants to do something special as a team. He's done a lot of neat individual things. And, in terms of, we've talked a lot about legacy, and I think those things matter to him, Jim, which is pretty neat. In terms of the things we addressed, I mentioned 2 or 3 things for each player. We really worked on shot prep for him, catch and shoot, and we worked on athleticism. And to say he took those things to another level would be an understatement. In almost every shooting drill that we chart, he shoots well over 80%, both him and Abrams, which is, where Tracy started when he first got here, and a lot of those shooting drills that we put pressure on him or time or make. Tracy, I look back here about a month ago, he shot in the low 60s. Now he shoots 80+, in those drills. So those guys have really, really worked. So Malcolm's addressed that. And then obviously, as Derek mentioned, you saw some of the pictures, one of them being of Malcolm plus 5 inches on the vertical and, up on squat. And he's went up in every category in the strength and conditioning department. So he's worked very hard to address those 2 things, and he's gotten a lot better.
John, with Mike Thorne, with what Mav did last year, with Ron Black in there now, and Finke is a versatile guy, how do you guys play differently?
How do we play differently? I think not even just related to those 4, which are certainly a part of that equation, Jeremy. There's no question. I think you better see a difference rebounding. Okay, that's my expectation. I mean, we're, as of today, 6'6", 6'7" with threes, and the 4 bigs you just mentioned, and, we want to rebound the ball better. I think, as I mentioned earlier, We should be a little bit more potent inside scoring and finishing with that size. I think that's part of it. We should, with the depth, Kedrick mentioned there that we should be able to run like we did more our first couple years with that depth. I think you'll see a difference in running and pace. I think those are probably and then defending. Last year we're fully aware of the fact, and we've worked very hard to instill that in our players' minds and with their habits, that we have to defend better. We got to take a lot more pride in that end of the floor. We have to play even harder. We have to play smarter. We have to defend better, and we have to affect the opponent on that end of the floor on a more consistent basis, much like we did our first 3 years. Our guys are fully aware of that. So I hope those are kind of some of the, I don't know if that answers your question, but some of the differences I think that we, potentially will see.
How does that help Malcolm? Last year he had to guard the post a little bit, play the post. Can now he focus more in on playing the wings?
He can, for sure. We'll limit it. Last year he played all 5 positions, so this year we might limit it to 3. No. One of the things is his versatility. Obviously, he knows everything we run for the most part at every position. So you can put him about anywhere, and he just plays. Having said that, is it easier to streamline him this year with where we're at right now on October 7th? No question. With the size that Jeremy mentioned, does that give us a chance to put more, if not all of his, time or minutes at wing positions at 3? Absolutely. It gives us the opportunity to do that. Certainly a lot more so than what we were able to do last year.
John, the one thing you mentioned, Malcolm's wants to have something special happen to this team. And the measuring stick everybody uses is the NCAA tournament. Do you guys talk about it? How do you guys approach it?
I'm sure they do, Tup, we do. As I've said before, I mean, we want it to be an expectation, right? That's what we want to do every year. I don't think that for us is like a cap. We want to do that every year. And our guys understand that. But more so than that, Tup, what I said earlier, I've got them really focused right now on what does excellence mean? It means being superior at something. If you look at the definition in Webster's, that's what it means. We've got to get back to defending like we did the first 3 years. We've got to get back to, rebounding better. I think this has a chance to be our best rebounding team we've had here. We've got a shot to do that. We've got to do those little things well. We've got to have great discipline with what we're doing, great purpose, execute well. Because right now their attitudes and their effort have been tremendous. And that's why it's been fun to go to practice. Sometimes with younger teams, you're starting from ground zero. And, effort and attitude are non-negotiable. And they're absolutes. And you've got to build that. Right now, I mean, our effort and our attitudes from a team perspective have been outstanding. So what that allows you to do as a coach is focus on the X and O's of the game, how to develop your team, how to develop each player, how to build them up, how to build your team up, and you're not having to coach effort every second of the day. And so to me, that's a huge advantage for us when it comes to the experience, and it's going to allow us hopefully to continue to take monster steps forward instead of small steps.
John, have you seen a difference from LeBron, and if so, how has off-the-court issues and his injury shaped who he is now?
I think they've both affected him, Brett, in a positive way. Oh, he's just, I think he would tell you that he's more appreciative. You just feel free to ask him because he said this to our team. He's more grateful, understands what a privilege it is to be here and to play here. And, he plays almost every possession like you're holding his head underwater right now. I mean, like I said, he's led the practice, and we've got some pretty good rebounders on our team right now. 3 of the 4, he's played very, very well these last 4 days, like a guy with a chip on his shoulder. And that's pretty neat because that's what we're in, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we're in the education business. I am out there, and everybody is around here. It's what we're in. That's the business we're in. And the fact that he's had a chance to learn and be better as a person, he's better as a student, and he's better as a player from coming from the injury and from what he went through in the spring is pretty neat.
Obviously been a big part of the offense the last couple of years. He's not here. What do you need to see from your other guys?
Yeah, well, fortunately, we've got depth. We're fortunate in that regard. once we get everybody full go here, here shortly, we've got a lot of depth. We got a lot of different guys that can score. I do think, Jeremy talked about those 4 bigs. I mean, we've got 4 guys that have scored double figures in a college game. All 4 of them have gotten double-figure rebounds in a college game. So we've got a chance to score some baskets inside. And then obviously Malcolm has a gift to score. Tracy's been a double-figure scorer. J. Cole's been a double-figure scorer. Certainly I worry about the offensive end. Don't get me wrong. We want to play the right way, and we got to get to where we're more connected there. We're not connected enough right now. But our main focus has been defending, getting our defense back to where it was the first 3 years.
Why do you think that got away last year? Was it, disjointed with guys being in and out with injuries, or was it attitude?
Yeah, for sure. The team, again, I'm not a big excuse guy. I don't like them. They stink. Not a big excuse guy. But the reality of it is, yes, to what you just said. I mean, the team changed a lot. We had to adapt a lot. Guys had to play different positions a lot. Rotations changed a lot. There was probably less continuity on that team last year throughout the course of the season, Shannon, than any team I've been around. And I do think that attributed to it. I think youthfulness, some guys weren't ready, quite honestly. They got thrown in there because of that, and they weren't ready. And some guys probably that, we didn't have the depth that we were talking about here earlier. And, some guys from an accountability perspective on the defensive end, like, we saw that even our first year where, we had lineups. I went with lineups in games based on their defensive grade out my first year here. We didn't quite have that luxury last year due to some of those things that you just talked about. So accountability piece, embracing that as young guys, I think they understand it more now, is a big reason why we're going to be better at that end. And then just obviously the dynamic of the team, the lineups, the rotations changing certainly didn't help matters. Again, at the end of the day, though, didn't get it done on that end of the floor. Our guys know that, and we got to get it done at a higher level.
John, for you, entering your 5th season as coach, are there any challenges, expected, unexpected, just because of the way the last 2 or 3 seasons played out with injuries and off-the-court issues and missing into the tournament?
I'm one of those guys that, I'm moving on, man. As I mentioned at the outset, Scott, onward and upward. We're going to control what we can control. I'm actually thankful and grateful for some of those things that we've been through at this point because I think it's made us more galvanized. We're older. Obviously, you mentioned the 2 6th-year guys getting the 6th-year opportunity. Guys have grown up. Brett talked about LaRon. That'd be a specific example. I just think there's been a lot of good come out of that. And so that's kind of what we're focused on right now. I was driving the other day recruiting, and I'm a music lover. Some of you know that, some of you don't. And I was listening to Sirius XM and thumbing through stations, and I listen to all types of music. But a Randy Travis song came on called "Digging Up Bones," and we're not doing that. We're moving on. We're onward and upward. I got a big kick out of that. I was smiling as I was driving into Champaign on Interstate 74 there. I hadn't heard that one in a while.
Have you implemented any changes, though, just as far as how you discipline the team, certain standards set? Have you changed some either philosophically or actually, literally?
From an educational perspective, the commitment we've made certainly internally as well as the DIA, strong. And that's great. I mean, I think the more education, more mentoring, as I mentioned earlier, that's what we're in. We're in the education business. The better. In terms of the standards and expectations, though, I'm going to be honest with you, Shannon, they're no different than when we got here. Those guys know what the standards and expectations are. They know that. They're clearly communicated to them regularly. Not just now, because of everything we've been through, before, consistently. So we're going to continue to emphasize those at a high level of importance. But I'd say just the one biggest change is continuing to offer them more educational opportunities. Obviously the world continues to change, and, whether it's, social media and a variety of other topics and issues that are challenging for today's 18 to 22-year-olds, people in general, but, specifically the ones that we work with, we see it as a real responsibility and at the same time a privilege to continue to educate them and help them grow and figure things out and become adults. We're going to continue to do that.
Your ways out first game, but the national anthem issue keeps coming up here and there. How would you handle that if one or more of your players want to do something?
Yeah, sure. Well, obviously that's a hot topic right now. We've had a lot of conversations as a group. We've had meetings that have to do with world topics that are hot topics that are out there. Obviously, as I mentioned to Shannon, we're living in a world where there's a lot of challenging things that occur on a daily basis. At the same time, I love to listen to our guys. I just like to throw out a topic like you're talking about the national anthem or kneeling down and get their viewpoint and get their perspective. Then certainly if they ask me mine and they want my opinion, I'll offer that as well. But at the end of the day, we believe in the freedom that they have to express themselves. Our job is just to educate them and help them to understand. I always want them to think about, regardless of what decision you make, whether it's pertaining to the national anthem issue that you're talking about, David, or others, always understand what, after you make a decision, what the consequences might be or what the outcomes might be, and it's our job to educate them on those. But in terms of the freedom of speech, their freedom to express themselves, I want them to have that. They deserve that. And again, for me, it's more about education, and we continue to do that with all kinds of different topics. And I enjoy that. I enjoy talking to them and open up. One time this summer, we had a big team meeting. It was going to be about 10 or 15 minutes. It was on a particular topic that's personal between me and the team, and I just canceled practice that day. We ended up having a 2-hour team meeting about life. I enjoy doing that. That's part of our role. I see it, and it's what makes it fun. You get a chance to shape lives. But specific to your topic or your question, we certainly respect their freedom to express themselves and certainly their freedom of speech.